Hello, I'd just like to welcome you to my video. This is about my self-built woodworking hut or shelter. It's a canvas covered shelter. It's based on a traditional bodger shelter. And here's a few examples. These are traditional bodger shelters. They're just generally for keeping off the worst of bad weather. I've adapted mine just to make it more comfortable and a better working environment for general weather conditions all year round. Okay, so let's take a look. Okay, this is the front A-frame. I've covered the front and side with covers also, just to keep even worse weather out and keep the wind out. This is the back. It's a completely freestanding shelter. And a view from the top. As you can see, I've fixed a line from the front A-frame that's anchored to the ground. It's not structural, it's simply to stop it being moved by high winds, etc. It's a polyaramid fibre, at least I think that's the term. It's meant to be as strong as steel, if not stronger. I don't know if that's true, but it seems to do the job properly. Okay, and I'll take you for a look inside. This is the inside front of the A-frame, and I've put a shelf onto that. There's plywood at the top. That's simply to keep out the worst of the weather, keep out wind, etc. And the top central beam, that's non-supporting. It's simply there to keep the roof angled to keep rain off, etc., run off. Okay, and here's my cabinet and more shelving. Just a nice little space to sit if I want a cup of tea, etc. And that's the back supporting frame. That actually supports the bulk of the structure. And my chisel rack. And chopping block, workbench, and the low chopping block. And that's where the front A-frame is attached to the back. And this is an electrical extension lead. It's simply for lighting. I don't use many electrical tools, but it's there in case I do need to. My chair. I made the cushion by stuffing some fabric with sawdust. My cabinet. That's where I keep my tea making facilities and first aid. It's just a place to keep off the worst of any dust, etc. Just the things I need to keep clean. Paper roll holder, just for cleaning. Towel rail. And top shelf. It's my table. It's multifunctional, as I'll show you. Okay, the top just slides off. And then it's a sawhorse as well if I need it. And then the top just goes back on. The top's European oak and the legs are American white oak, and some plywood on the front. It's hand sawn and handmade. That's one of the only pieces of timber I've actually spent a lot of money on. My chopping block. It's ash wood and the legs are green ash. It's just good for absorbing shock, etc. Ash is good wood for that. So for my axe work. Again, the central beam. Okay, so I needed a solid shelter because it's got to withstand a lot of different weather conditions. These are 18mm steel bolts. They go right through both poles. So they're actually the most expensive part of the build. They were more expensive than the timber frame. In fact, it was the hardware throughout the shelter that has been the majority of the cost. This is just a securing rope. It's to stop the leg spreading. It's also used in construction. Whilst I raise the front A-frame, it just stops it slipping because it's a hard surface, so it can be slippery. And more bolts at the back just to secure the back. You may notice some lines or rope going across the top of the roof. That's it's not structural, it's simply to give support to the canvas. We have a lot of cats in our neighbourhood and they tend to jump on the roof sometimes, so it just prevents the canvas from warping. It also keeps the runoff good for rain, etc. That's a little bow that I made, not a particularly good one, but it's a first attempt. So I just use it as decoration. This is the back again. It's natural rope that I used there. I just used it to secure the canvas. It runs through the back pole. Just keeps the canvas taut and keeps it in place. Okay, there's steel eyelets, they go right through the pole again, and this is steel tensioner. Again, this is for the back legs. It just stops them spreading because because of the hard surface it's on. If it was on soft ground, it wouldn't be so important. Okay, so the steel eyelet that holds a wire rope, and that's the main support for the front A-frame. It does the majority of the support work there. It also acts as a corner or edge for the roof. Gives me a place to tension the canvas again. And that's a tensioner, the same as used in yachts and boating. Again, an additional cost, but I thought it's worth it. And attached to the front A-frame, again using a steel eyelet. I also see the odd fairy light. They're solar powered, and they just give me a little bit of extra light in the evenings. It's paracord, it's just holding down the sides of the canvas. And I just use a tensioning knot just to so I can adjust it as weather conditions change. The timber frame moves slightly, so it just makes sure everything stays nice and tight and stays in place. This is early construction. This is probably one of my first attempts. So this is the front A-frame. I later took off the bar you see at the bottom and this is me raising it. I used a strong rope, it was an abseil rope, to lift it. It's through a steel eyelet. That just allowed me to raise it by myself. And using a climbing method, it was a safety mechanism, stopped it falling back down should I let go of the rope. I originally lashed it together with rope as well, but I wanted extra security, so I added the steel bolts instead. It was also used a lot of rope to fasten the whole structure. This is a wooden hook. They're fairly common and easy to make. Just show you the amount of weight it can hold. This is a bag of onions. And this is a bag which my girlfriend kindly made for me, where I used to dry out my tinder fungus. This is Daldinia concentrica, which is King Alfred's cake, more commonly known. It's a fungus for lighting fire. It can take a spark from the fire steel, etc. quite easily. Try and break it. Now my camera doesn't have autofocus, but if it had, you would see that it has concentric lines throughout it, which is an identifying feature, hence the name. And they're available in my web shop, which I have details at the end of this video if you're interested. Okay, to the back support frame again. And a closer look at my chisel rack. There's some safety equipment there too, mask, etc. It does get dusty in the shelter, although it airs through reasonably quickly. And that's just fixed to the frame at the back. In case you were wondering what's on my top shelf there, I'll just give you a closer look. These are some bowls which I've been making. They've been drying for about a month because it was green wood originally. They're hand cut, hand carved. Nearly ready for sanding and final finishing. My latest project, which I've only just recently finished. It's an organiser for screws, or a screw rack. I don't know the technical term for it, but it's somewhere handy to keep all my loose screws. A few screws loose, as they say. I was quite pleased, again it's recycled wood. And this is my hut in the snow. It's a little bit cold out there when it's snowing, but I have to wrap up warm. As you can see, it can withstand most weather conditions. And I'd like to thank you for watching my video, and I hope you watch more of my videos in future. Please feel free to leave any kind comments, or if you have any questions, then again, don't hesitate to ask. Thank you very much for watching my video.